Hi, my name is John Roberts Brakey. I'm the Director of AUDIT Elections USA. AUDIT is an acronym. It stands for Americans United for Democracy, Integrity, and Transparency. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit 501c3 organization. Since 2004, we've been working in the state laboratories of democracy in many states. What we learned is that the problems with elections may be complicated, but the solutions are simple. It's called transparency with redundancy and verification. Our strength is understanding how things work. This is a result of many years that our core team has had in elections in many states. Our specialty is to first investigate, then educate, advocate, and then litigate if necessary, usually with a writ of mandamus asking the court to order the public official to follow the law and not destroy public records that could prove if elections are real or not. As I talk to you today, our country faces many challenges. Our nation is at a crisis point over elections. Over 50 million Americans believe that the 2020 presidential election was stolen, and 64% of Americans believe that our democracy is in crisis and at risk of failing. Even though the 2020 election had the highest turnout in something like 120 years, yes, it was a boom for participation. However, 80 million eligible American voters didn't vote in 2020, and that's a lot of voters. Many of those folks, I believe, belong to the Mark Twain party. That's the party that believes if elections made a difference, they wouldn't let us do it. We at AUDIT USA believe we have developed a simple solution which will convince voters who have doubts regarding the integrity of our elections. Please allow me to explain. We at AUDIT USA realized in February of 2021 that ignoring these folks was not a good solution. By the end of March of 2021, I accepted an appointment as Deputy Liaison to the Arizona Senate, working under former Secretary of State Ken Bennett on the Maricopa recount of the 2.1 million ballots. I choose not to abandon these folks to the influence of grifters. Instead, I reached out to educate and collaborate where possible. Challenging groupthink. Groupthink is a way of thinking where members of a cohesive group accept a viewpoint or a conclusion, whether it is correct or not, which then becomes group consensus. Groupthink stifles debate, ridicules other viewpoints. It's sadly effective because other ideas and facts and opinions are shut down. Fortunately, I used to be a psychotherapist, and I had special training in breaking up peer pressure, which is another form of groupthink. I helped many in the recount understand how elections work from my 18 years of investigating elections as a transparency activist working for verifiable elections. My approach was to talk from facts, first-hand knowledge only, then focus more on the solutions that united us versus the problems that divide us. Solutions that are realistic in elections. Items that we all should be able to agree on, like making elections transparent, trackable, and publicly verified, and explaining what good audits look like. It shouldn't be that hard to understand that voting is the secret process and counting is the public process. I will provide links below that will explain the fascinating history which involves how we voted before we had today's modern ballot. That history is why we have a secret ballot, but not a secret vote count. In most states, ballots are a public record. However, each original ballot is unique and must be secured for 22 months from possible tampering. To make it clear, This from Tucson election attorney Bill Risner. Ballots, thus ballot images, are public records. Here is what the Arizona Constitution states, quote, method of voting, secrecy. Section 1, all elections by the people shall be by ballot or by such other method as the prescribed by law, provided that secrecy in voting shall be preserved. Voting is the process of casting a ballot. After voting, that same ballot has been voted. There is no secrecy in counting votes on ballots. Ballots are anonymous records that are unsigned and deposited in boxes along with other anonymous records. We are committed to working within the constructs of the law to improve our elections through election monitoring, research, data analysis, and information so that people can have confidence in election results that are based on facts. Our efforts revolve around the fight for the gold standard elections, which is hand-marked paper ballots and using ballot images as a redundant, auditable system that is trackable to the original anonymous ballot. Our ongoing efforts in all states is to require the retention of ballot images and make those images a public record. At this time, 95% of the country now uses digital scan voting machines that take a picture of every ballot. This picture is called a ballot image, and the voting system counts the votes from the images, not from the paper ballot themselves. Ballot images are important records, but many states are allowing these images to be destroyed, even though federal law requires election records to be retained for 22 months. Our litigation in all states but Arizona is headed by Audit General Counsel Chris Sauter. Chris is a nationally known, highly respected election attorney and professor of election law based in Washington, D.C. Chris has participated in every major election recount in the country since 1984. Chris and I first met in March of 2016 after the Arizona presidential preference primary, during which hundreds of polling sites were closed in Maricopa County, which caused long lines as much as 6 hours, disenfranchising about 150,000 voters. Chris and I bonded over our interest and deep background in elections. We worked together again in the 2016 Wisconsin presidential recount and persuaded the Dane County clerk to begin posting ballot images online, our first major victory together. We soon began working and traveling together in different states to meet with election officials to educate them about the importance of preserving and then making ballot images publicly available. Under Chris's leadership, Audit Elections has initiated litigation in Alabama, Ohio, and Florida. In Alabama, we persuaded a judge in the heart of Dixie who was appointed to the bench by the Republican governor, who ordered the Republican Secretary of State to instruct county election officials to save ballot images during the 2017 special U.S. Senate election between Roy Moore and Doug Jones. In Ohio, the Republican Secretary of State instructed county election officials to preserve ballot images after we filed a lawsuit against him. In Virginia, under the threat of litigation, election officials directed local election officials to begin saving ballot images. With proper funding, we'll be filing similar lawsuits in Michigan, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and other swing states. In Michigan, they claimed saving ballot images would cause long lines. In North Carolina, they only saved the write-in ballot images, thus illegally destroying 97% of all ballot images. In Massachusetts, they say it's illegal to make ballot images, so they claim they turned it off, when in fact it doesn't work unless it's on. Chris Sauter and Florida State Representative Joseph Geller on May 25, 2021, wrote a letter to Pamela Carlin, Deputy Assistant Attorney General, Division of Civil Rights, at the U.S. Department of Justice, advising her that Florida election officials and elected officials throughout the country were destroying ballot images contrary to federal law that requires preservation of all election records. As a result, the DOJ issued a document on July 28, 2021 that clarified that requirement of law, specifically to include electronic records such as ballot images. Folks, we must not allow election officials to break the law and destroy public records that will increase confidence in election results. Ballot images are the answer for transparent, trackable, and publicly verified elections. Usually, good random audits are done with the smallest unit, which is a precinct. Maricopa County had 743 precincts. Selecting a few precincts after the election is an excellent way to verify elections. However, it is easy to sort with ballot images, but not with hand-marked paper ballot that comes in through by mail or cast at a voting center. These ballots are not sorted by precinct and are only sorted by the voting machine. Making good audits is hard to do using the original hand-marked paper ballots. Do you see the problem? In Maricopa, which had 1,640 boxes of ballots on 46 pallets from the 2020 election, if you wanted to audit one precinct, you might have to open up almost every box to put that one precinct together with paper ballots to audit. Ballot images do not suffer that consequence or problem. You can easily sort images by precinct, by legislative district, by candidate. You can also look at undervotes, overvotes, and write-in votes, important to the Libertarian Party in Arizona. That's how they keep on the ballot. We believe and teach that election officials must be transparent, trackable, publicly verified with a simple ballot storage system in order to prove to election officials and public that the images they just added up were real. Finally, perform a simple risk-limiting audit proving that the images are real by verifying the image to the original hand-marked ballot as a final check. What I'm describing isn't based on experts saying, trust us. It's about seeing the evidence for yourself. Evidence that's visual, easily understood, and quickly produced. It's not computer code. It's mostly visual. We work to educate others about this so they can see the basis for accurate results for themselves. What is amazing is that the infrastructure to do ballot image audits is in place, and it would cost little to nothing to implement. Below, you'll find two links, one to a bill called Arizona House Bill 2780, which almost passed this year, and will explain how ballot image audits work. The other link is to a video that explains the technology by Larry Moore, former CEO of Clear Ballot. It's 10 minutes long. It explains how to produce an easy, understandable evidence trail that a losing side and voters can accept. This short video explains how election officials in Maryland use digital ballot images to show who won a state assembly's race where there was a 1 vote margin reported by the initial tabulation result. To quote known election activist and actress Mimi Kennedy on the system, the matching of digital ballot images to paper ballots and cast vote records creates redundancy. That is what we need to prove to the public that the results are real. We cannot rely on a single method doing that count. Redundancy is the principle that serves accuracy and security, end quote. In Florida, I am proud to announce that we had a big win where over half the state's 67 counties were destroying ballot images. After more than 3 years of litigation efforts by AUDIT USA, supported by the state Democratic Party of Florida, has mandated that the ballot images must be retained for 22 months. Now we must get that enforced. Getting ballot images preserved for 22 months and making them a public record is our primary mission. We are the only organization in the country that has been actively advocating for the retention and public release of ballot images for almost 10 years. People are finally starting to listen and understand the importance of digital ballot images in creating transparent, trackable, and publicly verified elections, but we need more resources and more staff, reach more people in more states. We are also involved in many other areas of elections transparency. We oppose the expensive ballot marking device called BMDs being forced on voters to use in various counties where machine marked ballots, which really are not ballots because ballots have choices, not just hidden inside a barcode. To make it worse, the digital scan, it does not read the names of the voter's choice. It reads the QR code or the barcode depending upon which vendor. I would personally prefer the code in Chinese because I could get a Chinese computer program that would translate the name. However, these barcodes can be reassigned. It also escalates the cost substantially, making much more money for the vendor and slows down voting processes. It's less secure and creates long lines. We also help people around the country understand problems that have occurred in their local elections and assist them with public records requests and advise them on litigation when necessary. I'm proud of the horizontal organization that we are establishing where we collaborate with and empower individuals and groups around the country to take ownership and pride in their own efforts to improve elections. We know how important it is to work with people on both the right and left and help them understand that what we do at Audit Elections USA is not about the right or left, it's about right and wrong. I worked with Ken Bennett, a principled Republican who served as a liaison between the Senate and the cyber ninjas on the controversial Maricopa County audit. I was Ken's deputy liaison. Ken was the former Secretary of State and former president of the state Senate. To be clear, Ken had nothing to do with the hiring of the cyber ninjas. Ken and my personal politics are very different. However, that didn't stop us from developing a close friendship during our 5 months working in the same foxhole. It was while working with Ken that I realized that principled people may not always agree on political issues, but they can agree on free, fair, and transparent elections by making the black box transparent and accountable to we the people. Ken understands and promotes the importance of ballot images. By working together, we proposed a legislative bill requiring ballot images to be posted online after every election, which came very close to passing this year. We expect it to pass in the next year's legislative session. Ken Bennett will most likely be a state senator next year, and we will reintroduce the bill in January with co-sponsors from both parties. Yes, transparency is the solution. In 2016, Democrats doubted the results of the presidential election. In 2020 election, Republicans had election doubts on steroids. Clearly, in our country, we have passed the Rubicon, and there's no going back to a system telling us to trust without real verification and audits. We must not continue to lurch from election to election without public confidence in election results. I have often said that it is more important for losers to believe that they have lost than it is for winners to believe that they have won. Doubts will continue unless we implement solutions to help our nation function on an even keel. Confidence in election results is good for all political parties, for voters, candidates, and good for our country. As we reflect on the election of 2020 and our efforts for the 22 and 24 election, we see it as both an exciting time and a critical time to step up our efforts with what we know. We see this as a time for Audit USA to go big or go home. And we're not going home, not with what we know. Please help us build on this momentum to protect American elections through public oversight and real transparency, which is vital to overcoming the general cynicism that is too often prevalent today. Election attorney Bill Risner, co-founder of Audit USA, said, "Verification and transparency are the foundation of confidence in elections. Confidence is the destination, and the way to get there is through transparency and verification." These principles of Audit USA have been focused on election integrity, transparency, and public oversight for almost 20 years. The more funds we can raise, the more states we can help. We have amazing dedicated staff at Audit USA that have many years of election experience. We need to be able to hire additional staff to work with us in different states. Please help us build that nonpartisan, horizontal organization made up of small Margaret Mead type groups who specialize in elections, working with other election experts, activists, election attorneys that understand the Greek language of our modern election system in a funded network. As John F. Kennedy once said, one person can make a difference, and everyone should try. Let's all try. Please feel free to share this information with folks who may want to support our efforts and join our team. Thank you.